Tips to make my texting more effective. Okay, so the next question, tips to make my texting more effective. Texting for me is all about not making mistakes. So the thing with texting, there's this misconception that you meet, you get her number, which really means offering your time and attention. And then on texting, you have to like game her even more. You have to like do text game. Completely wrong. First of all, it's the initial interaction that makes her want to see you again. And the texting is just arranging logistics. That's all it is. If there's some sort of discomfort with her, lack of comfort, where she's feeling like, I don't know this guy too well, it seemed kind of random the way I met him, maybe she was drunk, maybe it was just you didn't talk very long, so she still kind of doesn't have a sense of your personality very much. Texting can be a way for you to alleviate some of those fears. It really comes back to, women, when it comes to sex, women have fears that men don't have. Fear about her reputation in front of her girlfriends, her value in your eyes, because courtship, aka ownership, a woman's value is based on having sex. So the very guy she wants to have sex with, if she has sex with him too fast or too easily, he could then value her anymore, which sucks. Then there's also another fear, physical fears, and there's kind of two. One is actual harm coming to her. A woman's fundamental fear on a first date is getting raped or killed. There's a big survey out broke that down. This is, you just hear this a lot, that it's their physical safety. They're worried about it, and this is a problem that, this is a fear that guys don't really have. The other kind of fear is that if the sex won't be very good, so she'll maybe drive to meet you, logistics, coming home with you. Basically, it takes time to hang out with somebody and meet up with them and all that, and then money too, obviously, and then it won't be very enjoyable. And I think the reasons for this is that most men, and this is coming from what women have told me, most men are bad in bed. They're actually not very good in bed. Women also, I think, require an emotional connection most of the time to have an orgasm. Some women just get off on the physical pleasure, but that's because they're comfortable with that. For most women, there's discomfort, their fear of how their bodies look. They're insecure about that. They're in their head thinking, oh, does he really like me? And all these other thoughts. Basically, that if a guy had these same kind of thoughts, he wouldn't be able to get it up. So women are, they have a hard time orgasming a lot of times because they don't feel connected to the guy. They don't feel like he's truly present with her, and she's having a hard time being present as well. So given that, it's like she's not going to orgasm possibly. Where's the motivation? Especially if the guy's likely not going to be very good in bed based on her past experience. This is kind of what's going on in the woman's mind, on top of just her time concerns, just her lifestyle. What I like to do with texting is I'm not gaming. I'm not trying to make her like me. I'm not trying to impress her, or be dominant or anything like that. I'm building awareness. I'm trying to build an awareness of her lifestyle, what her time concerns are, what her daily lifestyle is like, job, school, her social life, where she lives, does she drive, how often does she go out, is she very out, she party a lot, does she go out at night a lot, what kinds of things does she like to do for fun. I'm trying to get as much information as early on. I'll probably do most of this in the first interaction, but if I need to fill in some areas, some blank spots in my awareness, I'll do that on text. But within, 1 or 2 days of texting, I'm going for logistics. If I meet a girl during the day or at night, I'm going to text her, if it's during the day, let's say it's 3 o'clock, I'll text her before 8 that night. If I meet a girl at night, let's say 11:30, 12:30, I'm probably going to text her around 1:30. part of the reason for that is because I've found that women are open to meeting up with a guy that they met that night. If you text them, they could be like, "Oh, I'm going over here," or, "What are you doing with the rest of your night?" And we can kind of meet, and then we can possibly meet up. So that's something that happens a lot. Is you meet a girl, you text her, and then you actually meet up later, like after the bar is closed. But in general, my first text is going to be something pretty boring. It's just going to let her know, like, I want her to associate that phone number, that, the entry in her phone with me. And especially people are drinking and then they go to bed, the next day, the memory can become hazy. Well, the way to enhance memory or to lock a memory in is through recall. So you have an experience and then you recall it. This is why review is important when you're studying. Why you use note cards and stuff, flashcards and all that. Why at the end of a chapter in a textbook, you got the review section, because you get this information, well, before it disappears completely, you need to recall it, and that helps it stay in your long-term memory. So that's basically all I'm doing with the texting, is I want her to recall this guy that she met that, she had a fun interaction with. From there, the next day I'm looking at logistics. I will say the exception, when I meet women during the days, I met a woman at a grocery store a while back, and my first text was, she said she told me she was from Tennessee. My first text was, "Hey, Miss Tennessee." Now we had exchanged numbers, so she had my name in her phone. So I said, "Hey, Miss Tennessee, how about drinks tomorrow at like 5 or 6? And her next text was, it was something like, "I accept," and then "see you then," something like that. And so that's pretty fast. Usually it's not right like that quick, but the next day I'm texting. What I'm trying to do right off the bat is figure out what her day is, what her days are like, what she does for work, school. If I didn't figure that out initially, which I probably did, all I'm trying to do is figure out like where she lives. So I might say something like, where are you from? And then find out like, okay, what's that like? Do you enjoy that? Do you like it there? What else do you like to do? Usually all I'm trying to do is get on her lifestyle, her time, basically. And I'm not trying to express my personality. I'm not trying to be funny, none of that. And then I'm going right for logistics within like either the next day, sometimes that same day, but usually like the next day or the day after that. But I don't waste time. I don't believe in like waiting 2 days, and none of that applies anymore for a couple of reasons. Number one, women aren't as concerned with status or interpersonal value as they used to be. So, and the reason for this, they have equal access to resources, jobs, food, So trying to be like cooler than the girl doesn't really work. That's game, essentially. And the game doesn't really work, as maybe did for a little while. She doesn't care if you were to call her or whatever, because she's doing her own thing. So it's not even something that she's thinking about. So again, I'm speaking generally. I'm seeing trends in Western culture, how men and women connect and relate to each other. But for the most part, you don't need to concern yourself with trying to game her, with trying to raise your value in her eyes, or build more of a connection. The connection will build a little bit as you're learning about her, as you're learning about her lifestyle, her time. But really all you're doing is building awareness of how she spends her days, what her time issues are. And there's a couple things that I do from there. At that point, once I sort of get a good read on like what she does with her days, how her weeks go, then I'm going to set up some sort of date that is easy for her to agree to. It's not like going to be a big, it's not going to be like a hurdle for her to meet up with me. That comes from understand what women think about when they first meet a guy, and sort of the fears and trepidations and just kind of lack of motivation for sleeping with a new guy she just met.